All right, well, thanks again. Thanks for sticking around. I'm sure you guys are all eager to get on the road after a couple days away from home. I thought I'd kick off today just talking first about leadership. I think just having a little discussion together about what leadership is to you. I'll kind of share a few thoughts on what it is for me. When you think about leadership, what comes to mind first? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Don't overthink it, just the first thing.
A positive attitude.
A positive attitude. Great. What else?
Selfless.
Selfless. Yep. Leading by example, for sure. Influence. Yeah, good. Supportive. Yep. What else? Think about leaders that you've decided to follow. What has made you want to follow that leader? Why did you believe in that leader? Consistency, authority. Yep, good words. Vision? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Knowledge. What else?
I mean, even like just that person's personality.
Yep. Their energy,
Yes.
their personality, whether you feel comfortable around them, for sure. Yeah. What else? Talent, yep, them having a talent in a way that you want to have a talent, maybe? Yeah, for sure. Anything else? Authenticity, for sure. What else? Anything? Anybody have anything that they're sitting on?
The way they integrate their life, their work, their family.
Yeah, how they live. Yeah, for sure. If you're going to follow somebody, you want to follow somebody who is living the way you want to live in the future. For sure. Yeah, naturally. Good. So, generally speaking, I think most humans share that perspective. There's no surprise, I guess, when you heard anybody else say the words that were just said. I think generally speaking, a combination of all of those words come to mind. And the longer you think on it, if you were to sit and just put all of that stuff there on your own, you'd probably come up with the same solution. Or version, sorry, not solution. Now, when we think about deciding to become the leader of leaders, the leader that you'd like to become, what comes to mind? Goals, yep. What else? Vision, yeah.
What do I have to hold myself accountable to?
Yeah, what do I have to hold myself accountable to? Yeah. Anything else? Discipline, yeah, that's big. So how do we become the leader we want to be? What comes to mind? Anything else?
People.
People? What about them?
You gotta find people to lead.
Got to find people to lead? Okay, yeah, for sure. What else? Continuous improvement, yeah, for sure. What other things would come to mind? Anything? No? Pardon?
Time blocking.
Time blocking, yeah, putting the time in to becoming that leader, for sure.
Delegation.
Delegation. So let me ask everybody a question here. It's funny, this just came up in a conversation I had around the table. When you think about being here right now, what comes to mind? Just, I want you to be honest. What comes to mind? What are the emotions that are running through you when you're leaving your office or your shop to come here? What are the thoughts, when you're here and you're not there? Tell me the honest truth. How do you feel?
I was excited to be here, but nervous to leave the crews behind without management there.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah.
I want to go there, but I'm a little nervous about what might happen when I take off. Yep, that's good. That's a good one. What else? How else? Anybody else have? Pardon? Grateful that you can come? Sure. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Hopeful. Yep.
Not belonging.
Not belonging. Okay, never being enough. All right.
Now that I'm here, I wish all my guys were.
Now that you're here, you wish you had more of your team with you. Great. What else comes to mind? Could be when you were deciding to sign up, That emotion that came over you, should I go or should I stay, right? There's so many different emotions. Tell me what yours are. Is it going to be a waste of time? Yeah, that's real. Yeah, this is the stuff I'm trying to get at, the truth, the stuff that you might not normally say out loud. What else? What's that? Yeah, is this a repeat of the last one? Is this like every other event that I go to? Like I leave with a million ideas, but I don't know where to start. There's so many things that roll through our mind. What else?
I don't want to come back the same person that I arrived in.
Ooh, I like that one. I don't want to come back the same person as I left.
Time to grow.
It's time to grow. Yeah. Anybody feel any guilt for like stepping out of the day-to-day to be here? Be honest. Be completely honest. Show of hands. Is there a little part of you that feels a little bit guilty for stepping away from your day-to-day work or your job to be here? Put your hands up nice and high if that is at all true. You have what?
23 emails.
23 emails. Okay.
And it's driving me nuts.
All right. That's good.
More guilty stepping away from my family, from my kids.
Yes. Okay. Now we're talking. Who feels a little bit guilty about stepping away from their family to come and do this for a few days? Now let's raise your hand if you feel a little bit guilty for stepping away from your family. All right, good. Now we're all being honest. I sure do. I should put up 2 hands. I've got aging parents and a teenage son starting a landscape business, and my fiance's mother just got out of the hospital Friday night. She's battling for her life for the past 2 years. There's a million reasons for me to feel guilty for disappearing to go to another event. Now, let's just debunk that together. I don't need to do this. I think we already know. What are we actually here for? Growth. Why? For our family. And our teams. If the leader doesn't go first, then nobody else gets a chance, right? And so you have to look at this as a sacrifice for them. You don't look at this like a vacation, and you certainly don't say, well, I'm not at work right now, because this is the highest form of work that you're doing. You're building new patterns in your brain that allow you to think differently and become the person you need to be in order for the reality of your dreams to actually actualize. Think about that for a minute. I'm becoming the person I need to be in order for that vision to become my new reality. Write that one down if you've got a pen and paper. I am becoming the person I need to be in order for my vision to become my new reality. So I spend about 100 days of the year with my customers or with the industry doing things like this, about 100 days. And I try to spend about 100 days a year with my team. So that's 200 days. Now, I only like to work about 250 days at the very most. And so that leaves me 50 more days. Now, in those 50 days, I don't know, 20 seem to just disappear. I've got this like rule where 10% of the time I don't know what happens. But I always make sure that around 20 to 30 days, I'm sitting in a chair just like you are right now, learning from somebody who's done the thing that I'm attempting to do. And I think you've spent some time around a lot of great speakers. You've spent some time around a lot of great team members from a company that's actually doing it and living it and breathing it. And you've probably got all kinds of things stirring around in your mind. And I think a lot of times people come to these conferences and they leave with so many things on their plate that they don't actually know where to start. And that's okay. I'm here to say that that is okay. You know, going home with a 30, 60, 90 plan, Frank is an action-oriented leader, and that was a big thing for him. He's like, I want to make sure that anyone that signed up for VIP leaves with a playbook. Like, what am I doing for the next 90 days? That's true leadership. That's a great example of leadership. I also want to make sure that you see that it's okay, though, to leave with 150 other things in your mind that you're not ready to action. Because I believe in that, well, I know that there's two parts to our brain. There's our frontal cortex that's processing all this stuff that's coming at us, the emails, the phone calls, everything we're learning here, the conversations, all of our problems that we have in mind. That's all in the front of our mind. And the more of that we allow into our frontal cortex, the less we actually jump into our subconscious mind. Now, when you show up at things like this, if you get very focused on what you're doing, then what happens is you're just absorbing all of what you're learning here, and it's logging itself in your subconscious mind. Now, you're actually going to learn and log that at some point in the second half of your sleep cycle tonight. So in other words, if you don't sleep tonight, most of what you've seen today won't ever become lodged in your subconscious mind. There'll be memories. Memories, only about 50% of what we think we're remembering is actually reality. Look that up. It's a fact. Now, your subconscious mind is logging everything when you're focused. And the more focused you are, the more likely that subconscious mind will serve that pattern that you've picked up, or that lesson, I call them patterns, at some point in the future. And it doesn't need to be next week. It doesn't need to be in the next 90 days. But everything you've learned here is knowledge that you're going to carry forward and you're going to put to work somewhere at some point. And so for me, what I really truly believe is when we're trying to become better leaders and we go to events like this and we learn from other people who have done the thing we're trying to do, what we're doing is we're creating an entire set of subconscious tools that we can tap into along the way so that we can actually lead other people who don't get the opportunity to be here. And so you are really here to better yourself so that you can better other people. And in these conferences, I think it's important that you go to the conference with that intention. Somebody else at lunch said, hey, like, do you ever feel like doing all this work on yourself is maybe, you know, a little self-centered? Does anybody ever feel that way when you're putting a lot of effort into growing yourself, that you feel a little bit self-centered? I think you kind of mentioned it. You were like, I wish I had my team with me, right? Feel a little guilty for not having the whole team here. That's natural. Anybody else kind of feel that way sometimes? Yeah, for sure. It's okay to feel that way, but the reality is like when you decide what you're doing this for, before even creating a business vision, when you create your own personal vision for your life and a mission that'll get you there, you enable a different part of your motivation to kind of unlock. Now, it's okay to have a personal vision and mission. Does anybody have a personal vision and mission that they'd like to share? That they'd like to share? Oh, the hand went down really quick.
So for me, it's changing and impacting 100,000 lives. That's my goal. That's my mission.
And why?
Because it makes me feel really good.
It makes you feel really good, yeah. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? And somebody said, well, hey, Mark, why do you do this stuff? And almost every time somebody comes along and says, you don't need to be here, so why are you here? And I kind of, like, anytime, who said that to me last night? Somebody said that to me. Maybe they've already left, I don't know. Oh, yeah, you guys said that last night. There was a few people that said it, to be honest, so I figured hopefully someone was here. Why did you say that?
I guess just if you look at like a money sphere, you're pretty well set, I guess you could say, and you know you've got your family, and in that sphere, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Anybody familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Anybody know what that is? Yeah. So, like, once you've got food and shelter and the basics in life, then you start to seek something else. You kind of start to seek love and connection. And like once you've got that, then you start to move up to another level. And eventually, you're not really seeking much. Now, when you think about like, why are you here? I think it's a really good thing to always ask yourself why you're here before you actually set out to do anything. And when people ask me that, I always smile and say, well, my simple answer is, this is where I want to be. That's why I'm here. It's kind of simple. I don't go or do anything that I don't want to do. I don't hang out with people I don't want to hang out with. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I just live the life that I want to live. And it has nothing to do with money, because money is not real. It doesn't matter how much of it I have. It's just fuel for purpose. And so where I always go is I get back to purpose. What is my actual purpose? And then I spend my time living out that purpose. It's really not that complicated. And so getting your own personal purpose really clear makes a big difference. And most of the wealthiest people that I've been coached by or mentored by throughout my life have always said that same thing. You know, I didn't really set out to be wealthy. That wasn't really what I planned on doing. But along the way, it just seemed like the more people I helped, the more money I had. It's kind of a simple thing. It's weird. And so over the years, when I was young, I was money hungry. I think I shared that with you guys. When I was 23, I had no money. By the time I was 30, I was worth around 10 million. And I was like, still not very happy. Same level of happiness. Took me a little while, around 30, I was like, why am I not happy? What is my purpose? Well, my purpose at first was to provide a life of unlimited access for my family. That's what my purpose was between 23 and 30. And there is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But once you have it, you've hit the first peak. And those of you that were in Dallas last week for the Leanscaper event know what I'm talking about. Philip McKernan said at the end of his presentation, there's these 3 peaks in life. And the first one is me. And the second one is us. And then the third is them. Now, when you've lived out your immediate purpose, sometimes you got to change that purpose. And when it goes from me to us, you start to think about your team. And once you've got a team around you that is so good that you don't really need to do anything to provide more for them because they've got everything they need as well, well, then you more or less start to really think about them. And I think this leadership style that I'm driving at in this discussion requires you to know it's completely okay for you to want to provide for yourself first and your team second, but then there is a them, and it's probably your customers and your community that you serve. That's certainly been the experience for me, and I can tell you from every successful person that I've ever sat down and talked to, I've been personally coached by 7 billionaires. They were all customers. I didn't ask one of them to coach me. I waited for each of them to offer. And they all offered for the same reason. My father, who I talked about, taught me when I was really young, always do more than you're paid for. People will notice. That was what he lived by. As an orphan, growing up with no parents, no money, in probably one of the poorest cities in the country, he had to learn that lesson the hard way. And so he taught me that one thing, and that thing carried me really far. So every time I asked these billionaires for advice, they would always tell me the same thing. Make sure that your vision is so clear to everybody around you that they believe it's already here. They'd say it in one way or another. And every time that threw me, it was so common. Every time these people, at one time the world's richest man, the founder of BlackBerry, another guy that invented Bluetooth, the CEO of Sony Ericsson, the family that owns the biggest gold mine in the world, all of these people said the same thing. Make sure that your vision is so clear to everybody around you that they believe that it's already here. Now that's a big thing to wrap your head around, and it took me years to fully understand it, to be totally honest, and I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible over these next few hours for you. Now, first off, when we think about creating accountability, and that's what the topic is supposed to be about, but I never really talk about one thing. They could tell me to talk about anything and it's going to be the same thing, because it all comes back to the same thing: your ability to attract people to your vision. Now, leadership, I believe, is ultimately the precursor to accountability. So when there's no accountability in your company, that means you're not ready to build a culture of accountability as a leader. So it's okay. And the sooner that you admit that, if you don't have much accountability, the sooner you'll probably adapt and become the person you need to be in order to have accountability. So a couple things I always ask myself is, who is the person I need to be in order for that to become my new reality? That's number one. And then I always say, what has to be true in order for that to become my new reality? And so who do I need to be? And then what has to be true? Now, ultimately, when I created an operating system to build my landscape company, it was just that. I thought I needed to become a visionary leader who can share the vision in a way where other people know where we're headed, but most importantly, how we're going to get there. That was, again, really good advice from some really successful customers that ended up becoming mentors. So I was struggling with this. How do I do this? Now, I started reading all kinds of books like we all do, and the first thing I came up with was I need systems. And I remember the systems that I first started writing down like it was yesterday. I have an incredible memory. I was definitely gifted with that. And I remember writing them all down thinking to myself, like, what do I need these systems for? Like, my biggest problems. So my biggest problems were telling me where I needed systems. And so then I remember like really struggling to find the focus to do this, because as I shared, I have very, very short attention span, unbelievable attention span. But what I ended up creating out of that weakness, I don't know if it's actually weakness, but our society calls it a weakness. What I ended up creating out of it was this unbelievable level of focus. I decided to turn my short attention span into focus. And the way I did that is I decided that I don't really like thinking about any one thing for too long, so when I think about something, I'm going to get right into that thing and forget about everything else. And then once I'm finished that thought, rather than compartmentalizing everything all the time, I'm just going to finish that thought, and I'm going to journal it, write it down, talk to my phone, whatever it is, and then I'm just going to move on to the next thing. And the faster that I can move on to the next thing, the further I'm going to go. But I need to make sure that I'm only spending time on that vision and that mission. And that's why I got so fixated on block time. Now, back where I started, I was saying I had to figure out my why. And the more I started to figure out these problems, I started to question why these things are worth fixing. And that's where the motivation changed for me. And I want you to really let this resonate for you. When you ask yourself why you're doing things, like why you're here, make sure the answer is clear. I'm here to become a better leader for my family, for the team, for the people I provide for. But what's driving me to be a better leader? Now, I always try not to go to, I'm not religious, by the way, so don't worry about that. I'm just very, very, very close to God. My purpose is to serve God. That's my purpose. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're, it makes no difference. None of that matters to me. I'm here to serve God. And if I serve God, then my life will almost uncertainly be better. I believe that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I believe that if I serve God, And if I act appropriately in front of God, then I'll attract the right people into my life. And then if I serve them, then I'll attract more of the right people into my life, and I'll have this incredible community around me. And together, we'll have a ripple effect on humanity that serves God in a way that's way beyond anything I could do. And so that's my purpose. So each day when I get up, I don't get up thinking, am I going to make more money off of this? I'm done with that. That was done when I was 30. What I get up and think of is this going to build a stronger community and a better life for me and the people that I serve? And I think if you get up with that in mind each day, with a really clear vision of where you're going, it makes it much easier to do the hard stuff that everybody else avoids. And yesterday I asked you guys to write down like 3 to 5 things that were holding you back in the business. And the reason that I asked you to write those things down was because I wanted to ask you guys today, what's holding you back from doing those things? You were able to write them down in just 2 minutes, 3 minutes. If you've got that sheet of paper with you, I want you to open back up to that page and look at those things. And I want you to actually log something. And what I'm doing here is I am trying to make sure you go home thinking a little bit differently than when you got here. I want you to log this one thing. Why should I fix these things? And I want you to write the answer right below that. Why should I fix these things that I know are holding me back or holding the business back? Why? I don't think most of us focus on ourselves long enough to ever answer those questions. Those of you that weren't here yesterday, just think of 3 things that you'd love to change about your life. 3 problems you're facing, write them down, and then just say, like, why do I want to change these things? What do you got, Brian? Besides thick skin. Yeah.
My problem is that I have two machines, 2 businesses, 2 big babies that I want to see to the top, and obviously I'm split with my time between both, and so to do both, I need to start building out a bunch of infrastructure for both businesses. I'm in the process of fixing and working on building and doing everything I need to do, but I know that's the calling, the mission, the vision. And I know the thing I need to do is to hire and build out teams and systems, which is what we're doing. And yeah, we're in the process of it. It's going to take time, but I don't think there's anything else. I've been to a couple of these workshops, and it's been like a year-long process to really, first off, get it out of my freaking head. We did that a while back with your help, and I'm just trying to backfill seats and have people on the right spots on the bus.
So, yeah, that's a great, that's a good one. Most people feel some version of that, I think. Maybe not 2 businesses, maybe 1, but I think most of us feel that way to some extent. Now, why? This is the big question that I didn't ask yesterday. Why is that so important to you?
Number 1 is credibility with the landscape company. Because then I can take that story to tell, honestly sell, as I put it out on content, to encourage other folks to, 1, do what I am doing, but 2, prove that if I can do it, you can do it. And my mission's always been to teach and share with other people that you can change your stars.
Yep, good. So you want to go first.
I have already been doing it, and I want to show folks that not only can you do it, because I have done it, I'm going to start helping folks that are on my team do it as well. It's one thing for you to do it, it's another thing to teach other people how to do it.
Yeah, so I give Brian a little bit of my time, not a lot of my time, but I give him a little bit of my time, and I don't charge him for it. The only reason why is because of Brian's why. When I first said, why do you want to grow your landscaping business? You've got this huge YouTube channel. And he said, well, I've helped a lot of people get to 300,000 or 400,000. But now I want to help them get to 3 million. That's the only reason why I coach Brian. He's a nice guy, but the world's filled with nice people. It's that mission. Brian attracted coaching. By the way, it's $350,000 a year minimum for me to coach, and I only take 5 people, and they're all by application. And I don't give them many hours. You'd be surprised how little I give them. But I decided to coach Brian for free because he wants to change lives, and he's got a platform to do it, right? And he wouldn't have the platform if he didn't do the work.
The reason I'm here is for Brian.
Yeah. How many people are here because of Brian? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people. If those 7 people all go out and touch 7,000 lives, think of the ripple effect that Brian has. And so that's why I coach Brian. And in my life, I can tell you for sure, I've attracted better and better people into my life, better coaches, better mentors, better team that are joining me, better customers, better everything by just being able to share the vision for what I have in the future. Now, you know, Brian wasn't too polished when he was sharing that vision. I was sitting down with him at a little restaurant, and he probably didn't even know what I was doing, but I was unearthing his vision through a conversation, and the conversation attracted me to Brian. Think about your conversations, and think about how easy it could be to attract what you really want if people know where you're going. Now, if the vision's too small, had Brian said to me, I want to teach people how to go from $300,000 to $500,000, I wouldn't have bothered coaching Brian because he's not going to have enough impact. But what the country actually needs is 100,000 companies that do $10 million or more in this industry. And there's a reason for that. Because those businesses have low enough overhead that they can pay fair wages. Now, who I actually care about? I don't care about anybody here. I don't even care about your employees. I care about your employees' children. Because every move that you make as leaders affects your workers. And every move that they make affects their kids. And kids all deserve a level playing field. And let's be honest, most of us sitting here are here because we didn't have an easy start. That's how you end up in landscaping. That's the truth. So I aim to create better businesses that create more powerful families and communities so that we have a better future for everybody. That's how I connect what I do with God. And now money in my opinion is just not real. And the reason I don't think it's real is because we created it. God didn't create money. Otherwise it would be spitting out of some part of our body, right? We created it. Why did we create money? Somebody who doesn't come to my events or listen to me online can tell this answer. Why did we create money? To trade for time? Who said that? To trade for time. Yeah, we trade our work with others, and it's a medium of trade, right? The world got too complicated for us to just go around trading, eggs for milk and food and, a little bit of blacksmithing. Like, we couldn't do that at scale. That's the truth. And the population's been growing. So we created money as a form of trade. Now, ultimately, if you think about what makes you happiest in life, what comes to mind? What comes to mind when I ask, what makes you happy?
Vacation.
Vacation? Yep. Relationships. Financial security. Family. Serving. Yep. Seeing breakthroughs. Seeing others succeed. What about vacations?
You're not thinking about anything. You've got your family.
Yes.
Everybody that's the most important to you is right there in one spot, and there's no responsibilities.
So is it where you are or who you're with?
Who you're with, definitely.
Right. Now, if you think about what makes you happiest on Christmas morning, and I apologize if you don't practice Christmas, that no judgment, I'm just asking for those of you who do, what makes you happiest on Christmas morning? Smiles? Giving? Giving? Do you like getting gifts or giving gifts? Everybody's more excited when the person's opening their gift. I don't know anybody who isn't, right? We all like to give. And so the more that we give, the more that we enjoy the experience. I think the reason we look forward to Christmas morning so much is actually just we get to give. That's really what it is. And it's this day where we know, like clockwork, we're going to get to give and people are going to receive our gifts. What feels best? Somebody receiving the gift or not receiving the gift? Black and white? Everybody knows. That's a stupid question. Yet, most of us aren't that good at receiving. To this day, when somebody says, "Hey, Mark, that was brilliant," I'm like, thanks. I often tell people in groups like this, don't thank me. You're doing me a big favor if you don't walk up to me and say thank you afterward. And there's a simple reason, because I actually feel guilty for not taking the time to fully receive your gratitude. And I don't have time when there's this is a smaller group, but if there's 400 people and 100 people say thanks, and I'm like, yeah, thanks, yeah, good, yeah, okay, yep, good, yep. It actually hurts me when I'm walking away to think I didn't receive their thanks or their gratitude properly, because that is probably the most important thing to me at this phase, is when I actually give somebody a really meaningful one-on-one gift, I want them to acknowledge it. And on the flip side, if somebody thanks me in a more personal setting, I want to acknowledge it. And when I acknowledge it, I want to tell them why. Like, I want to say, hey, I really appreciate the thanks. That means a lot to me, but I want you to thank yourself. Because the reason that I did this for you is something you did in order for me to want to do this. So be thankful to yourself. How many of you have gratitude for yourselves? How often? Not enough. So I didn't practice gratitude for quite a while, and I do every morning now. And I actually spend most of the time, a brief little period of time, having gratitude for God and who he's put in my life and what he's given me. But then I very quickly move on to gratitude for myself. And this might sound egotistical, but I want you to understand why I think this is so important. Is if I don't have gratitude for myself, if I don't increase my energy level and find a peak state, if I don't get myself there and then I go into the rest of my day in a peak state, then what's the likelihood that I'm going to have the energy to lead all of these people and the confidence to push through the hard stuff? Because that list that you guys are looking at, for me, I write that list down every single morning. And I make sure that list is empty at the end of the day. And if it's not, whatever it is a carry forward. And I keep going at that hard thing until it's off the list. And to me, that's what leadership means. Leadership is solving the biggest problems that are in my way so that I can enable other people on my team to reach their full potential, so that we can give everything back to the customers that we're serving and the community that we're serving, so that we can make the world a better place, because I'm serving God and that's the way he wants it. And once you've got that wired into your mind, you don't have to worry about money anymore. Trust me. Money is a byproduct of the number of people that you impact. People trade their money with others who have a solution for their problem. If you've never thought about it that way, I would write it down. People trade their money with others who have a solution to their problem. Now, the more complicated that problem, the more money they're willing to pay to solve that problem. Does that make sense to everybody? The more complicated the problem is that you're solving, the more money people will pay for that solution. And the more people that you can solve that problem for, the more money you will end up with. Now, I'm going to say this, and it's not going to feel great at first. Is landscape maintenance the most complicated problem in the world to solve? No, it's not. Let's be honest. But are there people who are way better at it than everybody else? Yes. What makes them so much better? Consistency. People. Consistency in delivering the service through people. So what business are you really in? The people business, right? Doesn't matter if you're cutting grass. Doesn't matter if you're plowing snow. It doesn't matter if you're a computer engineering firm or a consulting firm or an architect or a lawyer or a hospital. You're solving problems for people, and whoever's best at it will always produce more money. And if you are better at it than everybody else, and you're better at creating more people who are also better at it than everybody else, then you will be the best in your market. Does everybody see that pattern? Does anybody think it's impossible to be the best landscape company in the market that they serve? Does anybody feel that it's impossible? Yeah, I'm glad you raised your hand. That's brave. Why? Oh. You do think it's possible? Okay. Does anyone think it's impossible? No? Why do you guys not think it's impossible? I'll let you go. What makes it possible then?
For one, I feel like there's several companies in our area that are not doing a good job of consistently delivering services through other people.
It's easy to be the best when everybody else doesn't really actually focus on being the best, right? So I just said a word, focus. So the most focused leader in any market, in any room, will always be the most powerful and the most successful. Does everybody agree with that? Do you know how to identify focused people? Success? Maybe. If they are successful, they probably were focused on something. Yeah, what else? What else about focused people have you noticed? Their routine, their discipline, for sure. Yep. You what? You don't see them. Yeah, they're a little bit invisible, right? For sure. What else?
What they don't do.
It's what they don't do. Yeah, okay, good. Now we're talking. What else?
Engaged.
They're very engaged. Yep. Yeah, they do everything with intention, right? They're there for a purpose. They're calm, always very calm. Yeah, for sure. Usually. What else? Anything else? So everything that we've talked about so far makes sense to everybody. Does it not make sense to anybody? We've just been talking about leadership. It's just a conversation. Anybody have any questions about this? Any questions before we move on? If it's not so hard, why is it so hard? I love this one.
If it's not so hard, why is it so hard?
Yeah. So let's ask the group, why is it so hard? Let's be really honest. Everybody be really honest. Why is it so hard? Implementation, yeah, right. It's easy to say no. Burnout.
Struggle with consistency.
Consistency. Focus. Delegation. Confidence. Distractions. Fear. Discipline. Excuses. Getting out of your own way. The unknown. Being addicted to chaos, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the shiny object syndrome. You get comfortable. Yeah. Does that all resonate? Do you have any different ones, or do you just want to hear mine? You heard them. I couldn't have thought of all of those. That's the power of a community. I would have given you 3. But I agreed with, literally every single one of those was the reason. It's really hard for all of those reasons. My top 3 I put on the board there yesterday, right? Ultimately, if you really think about the hardest part about everything is really creating that clarity, though, for everybody around you. As a leader, that's the one, if I was going to say one. It's me being able to be so clear on where it is that we're going and how we're going to get there. That is the big missing link for most visionaries, right? And if you're a visionary without a system to deliver that vision, then what does that actually make you? A dreamer. That's the hardest thing. I hate that word. I'm a dreamer. That kills me. When I quit my job in nuclear, my dad said to me, hey, like, why are you making this move? Like, why don't you just keep doing some landscaping on the weekends? And I said, well, Dad, that's not my vision for my life. This is not my vision for my life. And see, my dad didn't really understand that because my dad spent his whole life being able to provide for himself and his family. But I have no idea why, but from my earliest memories, I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do. I don't know why. All I can say is God made me that way. I have no idea why. Why did you decide to start a business? See, when my dad asked me, I was afraid to say the detailed vision, I think, because I didn't have the confidence yet to say something that was so big, even though I knew what it was. So what I said to him was, it's just not my vision for my life. And he said, well, what's your vision for your life? And I said, well, I don't know, but I know it's not getting up at 5 in the morning in the dark and driving to a nuclear plant and going inside to a nuclear plant where there's no windows and doors, working in a rubber suit, getting hit with radiation all day for $180,000 a year. That's not my vision. Just not my vision. Not my vision. Maybe I get it. All those other people, they love that vision, but that's not my vision, right? It just wasn't my vision. So he said, well, what is your vision? And I said, well, I really loved landscaping and I loved working on the farm and working on other people's farms. That's my vision. And he said, well, I don't think you're going to make as much money. And I said, well, I think you're wrong. And the beautiful part about the relationship with my father is I was allowed to say that. And he said, well, why? And I said, I'm sure I can make more money doing what I love than doing what I don't. That's why. I don't know how yet, but I know that much. And he accepted that. And then I went on to say things like, well, you know what? I'm going to work 8 months a year and then I'm going to go skiing all winter. And I was describing this vision that I had for my life to him. And I did. I had created this little vision. So I shared my whole vision. I'm going to take 2 weeks off every summer. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to enjoy these 2 weeks off. I'm going to give everyone in my company 2 weeks off, the same 2 weeks. Then in the winter, I'm going to go skiing all winter. And I did do the 2-week break for about 5 years for everybody in the company, the same 2 weeks off. Everybody did that. I still haven't gone skiing all winter. Sold my company October 31st last year. Was sitting down in St. Bart's. I was there to ask my fiance to my now fiance to marry me. It was just complete fluke that the deal ended up working out on the week that we were in St. Bart's. But I was sitting there, and when I sold the company, I was pretty emotional. People that were, whoever was there could tell you that. I was very emotional. And I think it was like day 4 of our vacation or something. And the next morning, I got up at like 4 o'clock. I usually get up at 5, but I got up a little earlier. And I wrote an entire business plan for this business by 10 a.m. I use AI for everything. By 5 o'clock, we had the domains, my bank accounts were being built. I had no idea I was going to do that until that day. And my fiance understands me because I'm a little wacky with my purpose. And she said, I said, I'm really sorry, but I got to do this right now. And she said, I know. And I said, well, how do you know? She said, well, that's your life's purpose. You didn't sell it. She got it. She knew right away. I just sold a business to create more fuel so I could keep on living out my purpose. And so what you're building right now, this business, ideally changes other people's lives. And one day you're going to sell this business. And then your purpose may shift a little bit, but you'll always have a purpose. And so look at money as fuel for purpose. Whether you're an hourly worker right now, whether you're a manager with options or shares in the company, or whether you own the company, what you're building and what you earn each week is nothing more than fuel for the purpose that you're on. So you've got to be really clear of what this purpose is. Now, a lot of people aren't, and that's okay, but I want to make sure that the first thing that comes to mind for you when you think of purpose is at least connected to who you help, because I think that's right behind everybody's purpose. Who do you help? Because when you know who you help and you know how, you get up each day with a different level of discipline, a different level of motivation, a completely different level of courage, because you're doing it for them. Nobody gets up and has a ton of discipline for themselves. I have this saying, it's everywhere. It's in my gym. I've got stickers made just for our family, but it's discipline or disappointment. And one of my coaches, who's also a good friend of mine, Dan Martell, he saw that on my gym wall, and he goes, Mark, that's negative. And I said, really? Why is that negative? And he said, well, it's like you're either disciplined or you're going to be disappointed. And like that's kind of like almost threatening. And I said, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. And I said, I think it's just our stories. And it's so interesting that you think it's negative and I think it's positive. But I think they're just stories. See, for me, if I don't have the discipline to live out my purpose each day, then I'm going to be disappointed with myself at the end of the day because I didn't help anybody. The minute I said that, he's like, oh, that's not negative. That's fine. Leave it up there, right? But this is really important. We all have such a different perspective on the same thing. You see how like he thought it was negative at first, and I thought it's like the most positive thing ever. And my point here is when you create a vision and when you create a mission, don't forget, other people are going to perceive that a certain way. And it's up to you to be able to explain it. They're not just words on paper. And you got to talk about that vision and that mission and those core values every day in your business. And it's not reading them. Anybody that's worked with me will tell you, like, we don't rehearse our mission statement and our core values. It's just not a thing. We talk about it. Why do we do this? We're helping our customers. Why do we do this? We're building people. Why do we? But it's the why that matters, not rehearsing the thing on the wall. It's great to have it on the wall to refer to, but it's up to you as the leader to talk about your mission and where you're headed so often that it drives everybody crazy around you, that they're like, holy shit, I gotta hear this again? Like, oh yeah, 10 years from now we're gonna be $10 million? How many times are we gonna hear this? And this mission, we're gonna make sure that our customers get what we promised, and we're going to do what we say and say what we do every day, and we're going to build these future leaders in our company every single day until we get there. This mission. Why does he talk about that all the time? That drives me crazy. If you say that often enough, people will begin to believe it. But if you never talk about it at all, what do you think they think your purpose of your business is? Money. For who? You. Yeah. You either tell them the truth or they're going to make up their own. It takes a lot of vulnerability to say, hey, you know what? The only reason why I actually do what I do is because I want more love and connection in my life. And when I come to work here each day and I lead this company, I'm surrounded by love and connection. That's why I actually do what I do. I don't need more money. That takes a lot of balls. And most leaders won't say it. Why won't they say that? Fear of being vulnerable. Yeah, absolutely. You got to do it. Why doesn't a man want to cry in front of other people? It's not masculine. Yeah, good. Okay, what else? Vulnerability, but why? Why don't they want to be vulnerable? Shows weakness, yeah. Supposed to be the strong, fearless leader. Yeah, for sure. So when you go around and you never show any vulnerability, what does that do to everybody around you? They are afraid to approach you. Why? They don't want to be vulnerable, right? They don't know you. They don't trust you. They don't feel like they're enough, because if you're so strong that you have these no emotions, then why would they come along and say, hey, I need this, or I'm not feeling like I'm enough, or hey, I'm really sorry I did that, but I don't know what to do next? What would make them come and do that if you're like this shield of perfection? Do you think it'd be easier if you showed a little vulnerability once in a while for somebody to come along and say, I need some help? And if the only time that you actually feel really good and really fulfilled is when other people ask for your help, or when you get to help other people, then doesn't that mean that you should be a little more vulnerable as a leader? See, this is first principles thinking. I always try to reverse engineer things. It's almost like a sickness. If, like, people who hang out with me are like, Mark, stop asking me all those questions. But all I'm ever trying to get to is the truth. And the truth is if you don't have accountability in your company, it's because you're not a vulnerable enough leader. And you've made it that way. And it's not your fault. Society made us that way. So when I think about leadership, I think I got to have this clear vision. And it's got to be big enough that other people fit inside of that vision. That they say, holy, that vision is so big and it seems like it's going to have such a good impact that I want to get behind that vision. That vision is going to take me where I want to go. And then when that leader is very clearly people first, and they're not just pretending to be. There's all kinds of leaders, and we've all worked for some before, who pretend that they care about people. And sometimes they actually come across a little bit nicer than other leaders. Like anybody that's worked for me will tell you, there's times when I'm not all that nice, right? Hey, Steve, there's times where I just get to the point, and not always in the most friendly way. Those of you that are on my weekly accelerator, you know, once in a while I can get fired up. But that's me loving on you. That's my way of telling you, you're not living up to your full potential. That's my version of love. And people choose to be around that, or they choose to get the hell away from it. And that's completely up to them. But my version of people first is telling people the truth. If I'm serving God, then I need to be a truth teller. How many people in this room want to be a truth teller? How many people in the room want it? I'm not saying if you are, just put your hand up if you want to be a truth teller. Be vulnerable enough to stick your hand up. Anybody want to be a liar? Okay, good. Now, why do you want to be a truth teller? To make others better. Do they like it when you tell the truth all the time? No. So you have to find a way. This is the lesson. If you don't take anything away for the rest of the few hours, I can give you SOPs and all that other stuff. Those are just systems. What we're talking about right now is a mind shift. If you can't find a way at scale to tell a whole group of people like this, that when you provide feedback, good results or bad results, when you give them that feedback, you're giving them that out of love so that they can see how they're doing and so that they understand what they need to do to get a little bit better. Once you reprogram your brain, then you won't be afraid to give people feedback even if they don't want it, because you know that you're giving them something, even when they don't. That's leadership. The hardest thing to do is give people feedback. Everybody agree? All right. Once I can give them feedback, then and only then will they actually believe that we need systems. If I can't give them feedback, then systems are useless. They sit on the shelf, they're in a binder, people know about them, they could be written all over the walls. You can be running around in circles reminding them of the system, but if they can't absorb some feedback and see that they're getting a less than ideal result, then they don't really need the system. That's why we have metrics. Metrics are the ultimate form of love in business. I need metrics so that people know when they're doing good and when they're not, so that we can decide what we're going to change to get better. Now, systems to me are a key component of creating accountability, because now I say, you know, you're most important, here are the systems. With these systems, now I'm empowering you to go out and be accountable. And I'm going to be accountable too. And once I've got all these systems and these people who are empowered to go do what they do, then I got to think like, well, what do these systems need to, what do they serve? Like, why do I need all these systems? And ultimately, there's two sides to the business, right? We've got our people and we've got customers. And that's all a business is at the end of the day. People paying for other people to solve problems. And so these customers have to be important to us. And all of these systems and processes need to solve the problems of these customers at scale. They need to enable our people to go out and solve those problems in our absence in a way where we solve it better than everybody else. And when we get a bad result, we're going to update the system, and then we're going to teach our people the better way, and our customer is going to get a better product for it. And the better we are at doing that cycle, the better we are at running that cycle, the faster we'll grow. To go from 10 to 50 million, that only took 10 short years. How many days a year do you think I was working in the business when it went from 10 to 50 million? Not very much. I was growing LMN and I was going to 60 cities a year for 2 to 3 days. I'd fly out on Sunday night and I'd fly home on Friday night if I was lucky, sometimes early Saturday morning. Economy class seats, flight delays, right? So I was home for a day and a half for 6 to 7 months, 8 months a year while that business did that. Why? Leaders. Yeah. But it wasn't me anymore. I set the vision, helped build the strategies. We had people, we had systems, they were empowered, we were customer centric, and we had to always keep changing. And what the team started to learn was, hey, every time we have a problem, we got to either update an existing system or we got to build a new one to solve that problem, because as we grew, things got more and more complicated. When I was the same size as Atlas, my fuel bay looked just like this. When I got to 20 million at the end of the day, can you imagine what the lineup would look like if you've got 20 more trucks here? Right? So then you put another fuel bay over there. And now you can process all the trucks. But at 50 million, I had 120 heavy trucks. That was tractor trailers with live bottoms, 80 of them, and 40 triaxles. Now that was another division that was in addition to that revenue. So if you're doing the math, you're like, huh? That was my aggregates division, because I had a soils, mulch, and aggregates business and a nursery. So we had a big logistics company. Now, would that same fuel system have worked for me? No. But, you know, I remember one day I got a call, and I remember where I was standing to this day. I was standing in Sacramento at an event, and my logistics manager said, hey, Mark, I tried to talk to you about this on Friday. I've been trying to talk to you about this for a month. There's a 2-hour lineup at the fuel pumps ever since we switched to winter operation. I said, 2 hour, wait, why? And he said, well, because we got off of the staggered timing. And I said, okay, but why? And he said, well, all the trucks are coming in and out at once, and it's like very unpredictable. Like all of our scheduling has changed. And I said, okay, but why? You just that was your last why. And he said, there's too many trucks for the number of fuel pumps we have. And I said, there's the answer. And I said, why are you calling me about it? And he said, well, I wanted to tell you about the problem. And I said, what are your 3 solutions? I always ask for 3 solutions. He said, well, the first one is we're going to get a fuel company to come in and fill every truck where they're parked every day. And I said, okay, that sounds like a good solution. What's your second one? He said, the same. And I said, what's the third one? He said, the same. And I said, excuse my language, what the fuck are you calling me for? You already have the answer. $15,000 a day in savings. Why would you bother to call me? That's empowerment. That's saying like, hey, listen, don't come back to me to answer a question you've already answered. That's pointless. And once you start to do that, then people start making better decisions on their own all the time. They're not afraid to make those decisions. So my next thing to him, I said, Why didn't you just send me an email with an updated SOP and say, we're changing the SOP and here's what it looks like now? I would have been more than happy with that. Well, that was the last time I ever had to say that to him. Last time. So he knew from that point forward, if a system was broken, he could make one, send over the SOP, get a quick approval email, and bam, that's the way it is from that point forward. And that's continuous improvement in action, right? And so that's where you get to. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be there tomorrow, but when you've got leaders that come to you with good ideas because you've empowered them to do it, look out, because they'll come to you with more than you can keep up with. And they took the business from 10 to 50 million. I didn't. I really, truly didn't. All I was responsible for at that point was sales. And all of our sales came from the same 7 partners. We didn't take new business at that point. It was the same 7 partners giving us all of our business. We couldn't keep up with the partners we had, so I stopped taking partners. In order for this to become the way it is for you, you have to become a continuous learner. But the biggest thing is you have to create leaders that embody all of this. Now, I'm not saying they all have to be visionaries, but they do have to be vision-driven. They have to take the vision, and they got to be driven to make that thing happen. You need people around you who believe that that vision is possible. If Sam says to his company today, we're going to be 100 million in 10 years, I would almost bet the ground I'm standing on, the clothes on my back, that they would say, I believe that we can do that. Am I right, guys? 500?
5 years.
Oh, 5 years. Yeah, exactly. Now, why is that so possible that somebody could say, yeah, we could do that in 5 years? Why? Belief. Where did that come from? They borrowed it from Sam. Yeah. Yeah, he poured that belief into them, for sure, by talking about the vision every day. And Sam, I don't think, goes around saying that number. What is your 10-year BHAG?
I don't like to think in forms of 10 years, but so we're looking at by 2029.
That's fine.
15, 15, 29. I like to break it into a number that we can all memorize. 15 million at 15% net margin by 2029.
Okay, good. 15 million. Yeah, awesome. Good for you. Love it. So I'm going to ask everybody this one question now, it just popped into my head as we said this, because Sam said he doesn't like to think in terms of too long out. I want you all to think back, if you're younger than 50, think back 15 years. If you're 50-ish, think back 25 years. Close your eyes for a minute. Be completely honest with yourself. If you look back 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, if you're a little on the older side like me, definitely go back 25. Did you believe that you'd have what you have in your life right now at that point in time? No. And so oftentimes when we look ahead 5 years, 10 years, or 25, we can't actually accept just how much we could have in our lives. We really, truly can't. One of my coaches came along and said this to me.
Sam told me something's only significant until you have it.
Yeah.
Once you have something, it doesn't feel as significant as like 15 years ago. If I would imagine having what I have now. Now it just feels like every day.
Yeah, it's your new normal, right? And so where I'm going with this is oftentimes we really sell ourselves short when we don't think long enough ahead. And when we don't think long enough ahead about what the vision is, The reason I think we sell ourselves short even more as business leaders is because all the people around us can't see where they fit into that plan. And if we don't talk about it all the time, they don't know. So they're not motivated to jump out of bed and lead the mission. They can't be vision driven if they don't know where they're going. The most stressful thing for a human is not knowing what's coming. They're not knowing what's next. There's no motivation when you don't know your why or where you're going. It's just you can't get there. It's impossible. So if you want highly motivated people, you have to create that. Then they have to believe your people first. And this isn't the shit that you write down. This isn't the core values that you say you have. It's the actions, the way you lead and the way you hold people accountable to those things you write down. It's great to have them written down, but if you're not going to remind people that they're not behaving that way often, if you're not going to point it out when you miss the beat once in a while, well, there's no chance that people believe it. So this isn't just an exercise of writing things down. The systems and processes that you create together and you change them together. When you've got a better way of doing something, I have no problem with that. Come back, let me know. We'll have a collaborative conversation, we'll approve it, and we'll deploy it. You're then empowered and accountable to those systems. If you want to change them, no problem. Again, come on back, but don't change them on your own. Don't decide on your own that something is more important than something else is. Go by the systems and processes. And if there isn't one, then come back and let me know, and we'll make sure it's clear. No matter what we do, we're doing it for the customers, because if the customers don't see the value in what we're doing, then we have no fuel. And with no fuel, we're not going anywhere. Customer-centric. Everything we do is to add value to the customers. They give us the fuel to build people. They give us the fuel to give back to our communities. They give us the fuel to provide for our own families. They give us the fuel to attend events like this to become better leaders, better business people. Customers are important. And then we're going to be as adaptive and growth-oriented along the way so we can keep growing, and that means we have to keep learning. And the people who keep learning will always go a lot further in life than everybody else. So in my early years, I really struggled to get this all in a system. And I got to be honest, I called it the landscape production system. And that day when I sold LMN and I decided I wanted to teach people my landscape production system, it was the first time that I ever really wanted to do that. Now, for many years, I had this idea. I did a Google internship back in 2016. I saw AI for the first time, basically the same thing as ChatGPT. That's more or less what Google search is. And I saw that pattern, and I remembered thinking, damn, if you ever had that, you could actually create a brain for a landscape company, because it knows everything. And so 2023, I saw that come to life when OpenAI really became mainstream. And the problem with OpenAI is it had no memory, and you couldn't save things. And so I remember thinking, it's there, it's out there, it's here. And so I started trying to envision like what it would be like to take this landscape production system and turn it into an operating system. And what I ended up kind of coming up with was everything that I'd learned from all of those billionaires, which was, hey, like this vision and mission have to sit right at the middle. Once everybody's super clear on that, then all I really need to do is figure out, like, how do I make the finances work? How do I operationalize it? How do I build people? And how do I attract and keep customers? And so the 4 pillars of the Leanscape operating system are just that. We're going to make sure that financially this business makes sense. We're going to make sure that operationally we can do it efficiently enough and at a quality where people are happy, which is going to allow us to keep getting more customers. And the more customers we can attract, the better we can treat our people. But I very quickly realized that people actually come first. I have to be able to create great people, otherwise this business is always going to rely on me. And if you've ever suffered from burnout like I have, which I suspect most of you are suffering from it right now, I don't know what the hell happened there.
All right.
Always hire smarter people. Did I mention I'm not very tech savvy? All right, so when I've got those 4 things figured out, like then I started thinking, okay, how do I actually operationalize this with the landscape production system? And almost immediately I realized, okay, well, I've got this 10-year vision. I boil that down into usually a 3 to 5 year strategy. I'm pretty big on 3-year strategy. Then I take that down to an annual strategy, and that annual strategy tells me what I need to do in order for life to look that way at the end of the year, which are key initiatives. Really important that you just see initiatives or projects as being these things we're going to do that make that annual strategy become our new reality. Then I create some SMART goals that allow us to identify whether or not these initiatives are happening. I create some metrics to make sure that we can measure whether or not we're actually on track, so that we get some feedback to tell us what we need to do more or less of. And then I create these scorecards that make it visual so that everybody knows how they're doing. Create some recurring meetings to talk about this stuff regularly enough. I create time blocks to work on the things that make the business better. I have a calendar that holds me accountable to myself. And then I create these policies and these workflows and these training systems to enable people. It's really not that complicated. And so where we started out, when I said, hey, like, why don't we do it? Or you asked me why we don't do it. It's because that's a lot of stuff to just remember every day. While the phone's ringing and the customer and the staff and somebody quit and the trucks just got smashed up or the tire's flat, right? There's a million things. And so when you kind of think about it, I want you guys to think about getting in touch with your vision before we move to the next step. And this won't take us that long. If you're using Lana, if you're using Leanscaper, all you have to do is go to leanscaper.ai. You can sign up for free. It takes you 2 minutes. So if you've got a laptop, go ahead and do that. If you don't have a laptop, don't worry about it. Get your book out and write a few things down. You can use Lana anytime. But what I want you to do here is I want you to answer this in writing in your book first. Where will we be in 10 years? And if we get there, what impact will we have had on others? That could be the community, it could be your customers, it could be your workers, it could be your family. Itemize that a little bit. And then just after you write that down, just say, how will we actually define the mission to enable this? How are we going to define that? And if the answer is I don't know, that's okay. When you open up Lana in Leanscaper AI, she's going to walk you through a little Q&A exercise and help you craft a vision. And it'll be your vision, because the way that she asks the questions leads to a realization, your realization, not somebody else's, yours. And the more focus you put into that, the more you'll get out of that. So answer these 2 questions. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to focus on this. And hopefully this room doesn't erupt into a roar like it often does. I hope that you're focused enough to give this gift to yourself today. This is a gift that you're giving to yourself when you stay focused enough to actually do the work. Answer these questions for yourself. It'll change your life. Definitely change mine. I'll give you guys 10.